did this trade in July, or yeah, I think it was July. Maybe it was June.
Oh.
Oh,
So this is Jeff just strutting his stuff. It was
yeah,
Justin
not
Fields for Jordan
recent.
Love and Trey Lance. That's we're gonna throw that out here.
Yeah.
Jeff is just. What is up, guys? Today on the Football Guys Dynasty Football Show, we're going to be diving into dynasty trades, looking at overall impact of the injuries that they've had, and we have some big ones. So first one up is Justin Jefferson. Looks like he got placed on the IR, out 4 weeks. This is a monumental one. This is one that like really shakes things up. We've seen kind of these bigger players disappoint, like Jamar Chase, but they haven't been injured. They came back and they're ready to go. Justin Jefferson, you know, he is a big time piece on a lot of dynasty rosters out there. A lot of people built around him. Now he's out for 4 weeks, and there's talk about him. He doesn't have that contract extension, right? They didn't get it done in the offseason. He's upset. He wanted Kirk Cousins to be there, which I don't know if that's going to be the same again. So what is your overall thoughts on Justin Jefferson in Dynasty right now, Jeff?
I think it's fascinating that people are like, I would consider it a panic sell, but I'm seeing trades like happen left and right for Justin Jefferson, and people that like 36 hours ago wouldn't even consider trading Justin Jefferson off their dynasty team. They're flipping him for old tight ends and late first round picks. It's just like, what's going on right now? And I behove you that if you're in a dynasty league right now to make an offer for Justin Jefferson, because apparently the managers are panicking. That said, I do think that Adam Schefter made a good point on his podcast when I heard it today. He talked about how Jonathan Taylor got a new contract before he came back off PUP, and he was kind of like, well, Justin Jefferson is going to come back when Justin Jefferson is ready. Justin Jefferson wants a new contract right now. And so I think that this lines up pretty well for we might not see Jefferson much the rest of this season.
I think that's the key. And I think that's what's inspiring the panic sell, because I think if you're a contender, which if you have Jefferson on your roster, there's a decent chance that you have a contending team. I think you're looking at how can I, fix that production that I'm losing from Jefferson, and how can I do it quickly because I want to win my championship. But Dynasty is a long-term game, right? Like, I don't think that a 4-week hamstring injury. Now, I do want to mention, Jeff's absolutely right. I think the contract's certainly going to impact his availability for the rest of the year. But Jefferson hasn't been the type of guy to do that in the past. Like, he never held out despite all of this. He's still he played through the discussions and things like that. So I kind of think, maybe it's a 6-week injury. He comes back, you get him back for the playoffs, and then you're kind of feeling good about your outlook. And you get him back well before the playoffs in that instance. Now, in the event that he does sit out, Justin Jefferson is a piece worth holding. You don't need to panic sell on that that type of asset, because you're not going to get the return for when you had to draft him or how you had to acquire him. You are not getting that return at this moment in time. This is one of his value is low, so this is the time to hold. Just kind of wait it out, toss him on your IR, and hope that he does come back at some point this year.
But I do think it's a good point to bring up that, he is getting moved. Like, I think I see some people say, oh, he's not going to get traded. They don't panic. Yes, they do. People panic in this format, especially depending on the league. And, he is getting moved right now. So it's our responsibility to talk about what he's getting moved for, what those pieces are. Would you do it? And for me, if I have Justin Jefferson, I don't care. I'm not moving the dude. Like, I'll just keep him on my roster in the IR and put him there. But I do understand that there's people out there that, this is a format that some people play like redraft a little bit. Like, there is a little bit of that in there because of the reactionary. So let's get into some trades that we've seen, and we'll talk about those. So Justin Jefferson for Garrett Wilson and a 24 first, which is expected high. So we'll just say top 5 expectations there. So Jeff, on this one for Garrett Wilson and a 24 first, is that enough for Justin Jefferson?
I would trade Justin Jefferson if I was getting back Garrett Wilson and Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr. I would not trade Justin Jefferson if I was not getting back one of those two players. That's basically where I stand on that. And so in order to move this pick, I mean, you got to have a really good idea where this is going to be. And so that's kind of where my mind is on that. I would be sick if I traded Jefferson and thinking that I'm going to get a top 2 pick, and it turns out that's this dude's team is fine and he makes a run, makes the playoffs, and he's giving me the 8th pick in the draft. And then Justin Jefferson is back to being Justin Jefferson, playing with Caleb Williams or whatever is going to happen there in Minnesota in 12 months from now. again, I just think people are panicking in this much too hard, considering, like Christian mentioned, yeah, it might be a 4-week injury. He might be back in 4 weeks, and you might have him rolling through, and maybe he misses the regular season this year. But if your dynasty team is not built up to the point where you can handle Justin Jefferson missing 6 weeks, you're not a contender already. So
Yeah.
you should be making some considerations on building towards the future.
Yeah. Very well said, Jeff. Kudos. I would not do this trade because I would want like Garrett Wilson and 2 firsts, and I would want them to both be guaranteed to be like top 5 picks, maybe a 24 and a 25. Like, I'd be cool maybe doing that. But that's me building for the future. I'd much rather have Justin Jefferson on my roster than Garrett Wilson. And I think too, what you have to consider is if this is that manager's pick, you're adding Justin Jefferson potentially in 4 weeks to that roster. And so that's probably not going to be the 101 if I had to guess. So I think I'd take Jefferson.
And let's make it clear. There's only one player I move Jefferson for right now, and that's Jamar Chase. That is it. Like, if I could figure out a way to package that, maybe there's somehow, like, and you're looking at, because I've seen a couple of packages like that. This is not a deal for me. I don't I don't care, because you know what? If that deal is 103 to 105, you have egg on your face. Like, it's gonna look awful for you, because we don't know what's going on with Garrett Wilson's quarterback play or everything. We know Justin Jefferson's quarterback proof, because he's shown how talented he is, and I think he still can be targeted that way. We have not seen Garrett Wilson do that, so I'm out on that one. Here's another one: Justin Jefferson, Jaleel McLaughlin, my bad, 24th third for Travis Kelce, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Raheem Mostert. No, this is dirty. I would not do this deal either. Like, I am not touching. Amon-Ra is not in a tier where I want to have any part of that. Even Kelce, I don't think moves the needle for me in Dynasty, because he is slowing down a bit. I mean, I know he's got the injuries this year, but you can tell Travis Kelce's like, that value is going to be dipping extremely, especially with the guys like Laporta and some of these other guys popping up. But for me, this deal is not close. I would not touch this deal. I still want Jefferson's side. I don't think, and again, Mostert, who knows what that injury is going to look like. If he gets injured in that backfield that we've seen. So no, I want Jefferson on this side. Jeff, anything different there?
Nope. It was a great move by the person that acquired Jefferson here.
Come on.
Yeah, agreed.
We're all in this league, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is our. Yeah,
this happened. When did this happen?
This happened this afternoon. FF Spaceman Dave Wright was the one getting Jefferson. So the Dynasty Analyst League. So.
Oh, I'm not in that league anymore. All right, let's go. Let's move on a little bit to talk about. So what are your expectations on a Jefferson return? We kind of already mentioned that. We kind of went over, like, hey, he'll be back. Like, I think that he's going to come back. I think that it could maybe play out, but the Vikings came out and said they put him on IR because he was so competitive, wants to come back. They want to protect him. So if that's the case, I do think he's going to get out there. But I think you have to limit maybe his ceiling a little bit, right? I think that maybe he doesn't come back, maybe only plays a few games. If they're really out of it, then I think we're going to be worried there. But I do want to get to this question before we move on. What are we doing with Kirk Cousins? So should he be traded? What is his dynasty value? Like, what are we looking at with Kirk Cousins, who is always good for fantasy, always seems to come up short? He does have a no trade clause. He loves his family. He loves being there. So what are we expecting here with Kirk Cousins, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I think that last point is important. He has a no trade clause. And so while I think the right move for the Vikings would be to move on from him, kind of try to tank for one of these top tier quarterbacks, tanking doesn't always work. They could sign Colt McCoy, who they worked out earlier this week. They could sign Colt McCoy and accidentally fall into 3 wins, and that puts them at the 5th or 6th pick, out of range for one of the top 2 quarterbacks. And so in that case, even knowing that your ideal situation is that you move on from Kirk Cousins and then you put a high value rookie in that spot, I don't think you can really, that just has to play out. And so if I'm the Vikings, yeah, sure, I'm probably shopping him. I'm probably making a call to the Jets, probably making a call to the Patriots. I think both of those teams would consider doing that. But you have to eat a ton of dead money for this year. That really doesn't matter to them, I don't think. But you're also uprooting Kirk, and that is up to Kirk if he wants to go. And so I think Kirk does love Minnesota. I think his intention is, okay, yeah, maybe they plan on moving on from me, but I'm going to make it so that they can't. So yes, they should. I don't think they will.
Yeah, well, to play devil's advocate here on Cousins' side, my initial, when Kevin's asking about like how do you value him in Dynasty, my initial thought was, well, he's going to be a NFL starter for the next 3 or 4 years, but we're in his age 35 season now, and I think that you need to be realistic that, yeah, we saw Tom Brady play well into his 40s. Aaron Rodgers played till 40, and hopefully he's able to walk off the field and that Achilles injury doesn't end his career. But you got to be realistic about some of these guys, and especially a guy like Cousins, who's not Aaron Rodgers. And we've seen decline, I think, in Aaron Rodgers' game, and we saw some decline in Tom Brady's game as well. And so that's where, if you're looking at it in Dynasty, I think that you can't sell him right now because he just lost Justin Jefferson. And if people are panicking about Justin Jefferson, they're not going to try to go acquire the guy that just lost Justin Jefferson. But at the same time, like, if you're Cousins, you need to look at this and say, this is my opportunity. This is my window to win a championship. Are the Vikings going to be able to deliver me in my window in the next 2 to 3 years, make me an NFL champion? Probably not. And I know that maybe you don't think that Cousins is capable of winning a championship, but we've seen Nick Foles get hot for a stretch of games. We've seen multiple worse quarterbacks than Kirk Cousins win championships. And so, surrounded by the right team, and I think the New York Jets would be that right team, because I think we've seen enough talent from that defense. We've seen enough playmaking from Breece Hall now looks healthy. Garrett Wilson looks like he's going to be the player. You insert him there, and I do think that they are contenders to win the Super Bowl.
Okay, so Jeff's taking a shot at me there because I said something today like Kirk Cousins doesn't give you a chance to win a Super Bowl. And yes, you're right. You know, Nick Foles did get hot, but I just don't see Kirk Cousins beating. Do you see him beating Mahomes? Do you see him beating Josh Allen?
Mahomes this year, yeah. I mean,
right now.
Mahomes only beat the Jets by 3 points, and Zach Wilson was their quarterback. You put Kirk Cousins.
The Bills lost to the Jets. I don't even want to hear about like how this kind of works out there.
Bills lost to the Jets. There you go. Lost to Jets.
I do not see Kirk Cousins leading anybody, even in the NFC. I don't see that there. Like when you're looking at what they do, he's not Stafford. Stafford led the Rams to that championship. He's not beating those guys. Like when you look at like how that played out that year, like I just don't see Kirk Cousins helping you in any way win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I responded to you. My counterpoint was Zach Wilson. That's the counterpoint. But like, I understand where you're coming from. I think, you know, it has to be the perfect system. The 49ers are the one example where like I listed off the quarterbacks I think that have a chance. It's Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, who's also in a perfect system. I think he goes into the Brock Purdy tier, which I think is one of its own as well. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. I think those are the 5 quarterbacks that have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I do think Cousins makes that interesting because I think that Jets defense can carry a little bit. I don't know that. I mean, he moves the needle. It's just, I don't know if he moves it far enough.
Yeah, he moves the needle a little bit. It's like when you think you have enough gas, but you don't. All right, before we move on, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. Comment below with any questions, trades, or, you know, tell me why Kirk Cousins is the GOAT. That's fine. Just yell at me in the comments. We need the algorithm. But appreciate that. Make sure you like it.
Yeah, then make sure to head to footballguys.com/plans to become an to become a premium subscriber. Elite subscribers get custom Dynasty content for less than, what is it? It's disappeared. $15 monthly and $70 annually. We have the best Dynasty content in the fantasy football industry. Join today.
It says that every week.
Don't judge us based on just ad read there. Jeff just struggles a little bit. You know, he's an accountant. You know, that's what they do. They do numbers. All right, let's get over.
On me, and I was just in trouble.
Oh, okay. So let's go over to Devon Achane. So it's Achane. All right. So looks like he's injured. I didn't see him get placed on the IR today. Did you get placed on the IR today? I did not see that.
Not official.
So they're looking. I know our injury analysis, Adam Hutchinson, he talked about him maybe having an MCL, maybe possibly something going on there. So when we're looking at this, he was a top 3 running back in fantasy. You saw him, he's just explosive last week. But with this injury, I mean, it hurts him a little bit. Like, I think he's more of like maybe a buy window than Justin Jefferson, especially with what we've seen, because like there's still unknowns about Achane and what he can be. I think there's still question marks about that. So do you agree with that, Jeff? Do you think he's still a buy in that area? Are we concerned about this injury? Are we concerned long term if he's going to have surgery?
I'm concerned Doesn't it feel weird how quiet the Dolphins have been about this? Like, if this were like a knee sprain or something, and you give him 2 weeks, I think we would know that. And so it makes me very it's just strange to me that we don't know more information about this, because I think so many times we do know more. And so that's my one caveat on this. My other thought is, I I think it's crazy that what's happening, but at the same time, I get it, and I don't know that it is crazy what's happening with the valuation on Achane. People putting him as a top 5 dynasty running back. I mean, he looks the part. And that Miami system looks like it's going to be fantastic for him. So, I mean, if he's going to finish as a rookie and redraft as a top 5 player, then he's probably a top 5 running back in dynasty. And so, if this is your opportunity to get in there and people are backed off, or maybe people think this is just a short term window or are afraid off the injury, and you can buy at a decent price, I mean, it's probably time to do that. I mean, I traded him for a first, and I traded him and Darren Waller for a first right before he took off in week 3, and I regret that very much so. But I was very happy with that trade at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting going back to like our pre-draft evaluations of him, and it was very much so like, I mean, mine personally was I have no idea what to do with this player because this is a player that he's kind of too small to run how he runs. He's very fast, and that's obviously pretty clear on his college film. But I'm not sure if he can hold up in the NFL. And we've kind of seen both of those right now, right? Like he's a top 3 back right now in points per game in fantasy football. He is, I think, by all accounts, when he is on the field, he's probably a top 5 player just based on how Miami's going to use him. The staying healthy thing, and now I know he just kind of got rolled up on. Jalen Hurts took a shot while he was running that looked like it was going to bust his knee, and he was big and strong, and he ran through it, and he's not hurt. And so I think that that's something to consider. I think the sad thing is I think Achane's going to have to put on some weight in this offseason just to make sure that he does hold up. But, I'm not valuing him as a top 5 guy yet because I need to see a little more sample size other than the, 4 games I think that we've seen from him. That being said, I wouldn't trade him and Darren Waller for a first. So, sorry, Jeff.
Well, there was Devontae Adams with that too. Like, let's not just throw Jeff under the bus over right now. No,
Yeah.
To me, a chance to sell right now. I'm really concerned with what Christian talked about with the injury stuff. I think when he's on the field, yeah, he might be able to put top 5 production up there. But this is, I think, more about the system, right? When we talk about the system more than anything. So I think when you're looking at it overall, I do think that you could say that he is a sell, and you're looking at it like, hey, you just go and get more assets that you're more comfortable with, and you can accumulate probably a lot of assets at this point where you can have him and you have a higher floor for some of those guys. I get the ceiling is enticing, but I just don't trust it, and I don't trust the running back position either. Like, I just don't trust that there. Mm-hmm. I have a question marks about top 5 though. That's pretty high evaluation for these guys when you think about who you're leapfrogging there. I have them at 15, and I felt like I was high. And then when I saw some other people put them in that top 10 area, like that's to me, that's pretty high evaluation there. But let's get into some trades. Let's talk about it. Devonta Smith for Devon Achane and Josh Palmer. Where are you going on this one, Jeff?
Was the guy that traded Devon Achane away for a first? I would take Devonta Smith for him probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a weird buy low for Devonta Smith because he had a rough game last week where people are like, "Oh, are we set to panic on Philadelphia?" Yeah, I mean, I think I'd take Devonta Smith.
Yeah, give me Smith, give me the wide receiver because of the value. I think that's how I look at that one. Next one, Devon Achane, 24 first for Josh Jacobs and a second. So we have a Josh Jacobs truther here on the show. His name is Christian Williams. So I'm interested to see kind of how we look at this deal. To me, this is a weird one where I lean Achane in the first just because of the first. Like, the first to me is the value play because you can move that for anything else. You can get more value for that later, probably more than Jacobs to where how that looks there. Christian, where are you leaning on this one?
I want to remind you, though, that I flipped Jacobs right before the season for Achane. So I would take Achane and the first here. I have to do my rankings update actually tonight when we're done. I think I'm going to have him straight up ahead of Jacobs when I re-rank here. So
yeah, and if he's not already, if he continues this current trend, he will be by the end of the season. And then you're walking into an entire offseason where he's valued ahead of, as you don't see a lot of movement once consensus hits in on the offseason. So you're going to have 9 months there where he's valued above him. And this is the type of thing that he could never be. Josh Jacobs could never have more value than Devin Achane moving forward in Dynasty at this point. And to get a first on top of that is just a great trade.
Yeah. That's give me the first. That's just how I look at this one. So what are we going to do with the Dolphins backfield? So how do we play this Dolphin backfield? Where do they go from here? Jeff Wilson Jr. is coming back. Chris Brooks, Solomon Ahmed, and then obviously Raheem Mostert. When I'm looking at the backfield, whoever's healthy and starting, I'm going to roll with. Like if I have them in contenders, I do think Jeff Wilson's a sneaky buy for contender out there. Like if you're out there and he's on a depleted roster, a roster's trying to rebuild. I mean, you could probably go out there and get him. Maybe, I don't know. Would you guys pay a second for Jeff Wilson if you're a contender and you really need a running back? That's a tough one. Maybe a third and some auxiliary piece, something a little bit out there.
I mean, can you get Mostert for a second? Like, I don't know. I mean, I would think
probably not right now with the injury to
that's crazy.
Achane.
I mean, you couldn't have even gotten a third for Mostert before like a month ago.
He's a top 3 back.
Yeah. I mean, good time to mention. I think he's a sell in Dynasty. I mean, he is like,
if you can get a first for him and you're sitting in that weird spot where you're like middle of the pack or whatever, yeah, absolutely, he's a sell there. But who do you think leads his backfield?
I think it's Achane in like the future, and the future might be now if he's healthy. But I think that it's going to be, if he's out of the lineup, then I think they go back to splitting Mostert and Jeff Wilson the way that they did last year, treating them in a little bit different roles. But I think that you're exactly right. And just grab, if any Dolphins running back is available on your waiver wire, they should be on the end of your Dynasty roster. And because any one of these guys are completely capable of being league shifting players from weeks 14 to 16. And that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, Mostert is 100% involved as long as he's healthy.
Yes.
We do know that that's the one constant. And so I do expect, week 1, I know, Jeff Wilson wasn't part of that. Savon Ahmed looked pretty good. 28% of snaps that week. He looked good all preseason. There's a reason that he was kept over, Myles Gaskin in that instance. So I kind of think that that's the play. I think a lot of people are going to pivot to Jeff Wilson. And I think it's, like Jeff said, it's worth, darts as much as you can get. But I think it'd be Ahmed in the event that Achane's out for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. I think you need looking at this. Yeah, but I think the biggest takeaway is stash these running backs, like especially on the Dynasty roster. You just to stash them because they're always going to kind of pop up in value and go from there. All right, let's bounce over to Jordan Love. We had Jeff Bell was getting death threats from Packer fans about his Jordan Love takes for a few weeks there. Jordan Love looked okay at certain times, but all of the efficiency metrics and all of like the advanced analytics did not like his first few weeks in the season. And it's kind of reared its ugly head the last couple of games. And he did not look good yesterday in a loss to the Raiders. He kind of threw that interception at the end. From a fantasy aspect, he does not look good either. I think that there's some question marks there. So, his value shifted all over the place because he was getting valued as like quarterback 15 as early as like 3 weeks ago. And now he's really diving down a little bit. Where are you at with him as a dynasty prospect, Jeff? And how concerned are we with Love in terms of his dynasty value?
I need to, like Christian, I need to redo my rankings too and see where I really do come up with these guys. My gut tells me probably low end quarterback 2, even despite his age right now, because my concern on him. So the concern that we talked about a couple weeks ago on Justin Fields, we're all confident that Justin Fields, if it didn't work out in Chicago, was going to get another starting shot in the NFL. I don't share that confidence on Jordan Love because I don't think he's put enough out there that I think it could be a Jameis Winston type situation where if he continues to play the way that he is, I don't think he's going to win enough games for the Packers to avoid them having a high pick and getting a quarterback. And I don't think the Packers would say, this is our guy. I think that they would go and get a quarterback in this draft. And so I think that cast him in a situation where he's going to be a backup quarterback somewhere, and it's like that weird zone where like Gardner Minshew and Jameis Winston and these guys Tyler Huntley maybe live in, where these backup quarterbacks are rostered in all these dynasty leagues, because if there's the off chance that they go in, maybe they could be a low end quarterback one in the right situation. But you're just sitting there and hope, and you don't want to see anybody get injured, but at the same time, you know that it's a roster clogger. I mean, it's the value is there in the right situation, but you might never get that right situation.
Yeah, I mean, I share similar sentiments. I think the sad part is we've seen some good from Jordan Love. It's been few and far between, but like we've seen some flashes where it's like, okay, that was good. The arm talent's there. The deep ball accuracy is not. And I think that that's one of my main concerns, because you've got a guy like Christian Watson who can really stretch the field. Aaron Rodgers could get him the ball, and that would really open up the offense. I think that that's what's hampering this offense a little bit. That interception on Monday night was one of the worst passes I've ever seen. And I watched a lot of Browns football growing up. Well, yeah, the interception straight to the 3 defenders. That one was terrible. But yeah, I've watched a lot of Browns football. That was like DeShone Kizer level bad. So yeah, it's tough. But I do think that there's a world in which we are 5 weeks into the season. He turns it around a little bit. This is a young group across the board. That offensive line play has been really bad. I still have somewhat a little bit of faith. I think he's a top 20 dynasty quarterback, but we'll see where he lands in my rankings, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 17, but like I don't feel good about it. But he's in that cluster of what? Daniel Jones, Jared Goff should be ahead of him, but then like you have Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, Russell Wilson. He's kind of in that cluster, right? Derek Carr, like he's in there. He has a contract through 2024 because of the extension that he had signed. And so the question is though, what does Green Bay do? Because they're sitting there. The only thing I could see them doing, you think they'll draft the first round quarterback based on where they're at? I think it depends, right? Because they're not going to go out and get one, are they?
I don't think they're going to bring a veteran in.
I don't think they can.
If they don't have the philosophy in their building to bring a veteran quarterback in, that would just be outside of what they normally do. But if he plays the way that he played on Monday night, they're not going to win 2 or 3 more games. I'll tell you that right now. That roster is not that. Bakhtiari is out for the season. That roster is not that talented to overcome performances like that.
No. And they need Aaron Jones back. I think that's one thing, when he being banged up and having that injury, they were probably really expecting to lean on him and Dylan and just focus on those guys. And then just like, hey, you're not going to lose us games. And we're just going to be very, just game manager. That's all you're going to do. And he can't do that now. So I think that there is some of that. But I think as a dynasty, you have to hold because you're not getting anything for him. Maybe. Let's go through a couple of the trades real quick. This happened like, when, Jeff? This trade happened for Justin Fields?
I did this trade in July, I think it was July. Maybe it was June.
Oh. So this is Jeff just strutting his stuff.
Yeah,
it was Justin Fields for Jordan Love and Trey Lance. We'll throw that out here.
Yeah.
Jeff is just okay. Yeah. Here's another one: Jordan Love for Sam Howell and Jamison Williams. Give me. So I would probably lean with Jamison Williams just because I think he's the most talented player of this group.
Yeah, I think that Howell's performance that we've seen so far gives me enough faith that I think Washington's a little bit more feels better about Howell right now than Green Bay does about Love right now.
Yeah, but I think they've both been bad. So, I'm not fully confident that, Ron Rivera keeps his job and Sam Howell isn't shipped out. So I guess just give me Jameson. So I have an asset after they both.
Who has not looked good either. So let's be clear. He has not looked good either. Okay. So if you had to guess, who starts more games after this season, Sam Howell or Jordan Love as a starting NFL quarterback?
I think Jordan Love starts more games after the season. He does have that first round draft capital, and their age is not that different, is it? I don't think so.
They're pretty close.
Love is a year older.
Yeah.
So, I also think Love. The more we talk, the more I am convinced that the Packers are still going to be out of range for quarterbacks, and they have to bring back Jordan Love. So.
They're in that purgatory. They're in quarterback purgatory after not being in quarterback purgatory forever with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. So now they're stuck in that weird tweener stage because I do think that they have the players there, but at some point they're going to have to do that. But I think if you're looking at it from a dynasty perspective, I think Love gets you more starts in the next 2 years than how. So that's kind of also something to consider. But I'd take Jameson because he'll probably be someone always loves Jameson Williams out there. There's always a Jameson Williams truther out there. It's me. I'm the problem. All right, let's do one more guy. We'll talk about CeeDee Lamb. We'll just get into CeeDee Lamb here because I do think from a dynasty perspective, I mean, people were having him as wide receiver 3. He had 8.9, fantasy points this last week. He's now finished with less than 12 PPR points in 3 of 5 games this season. So he has just one game better than a wide receiver 24. That is not good enough for CeeDee Lamb. Like, he was produced as a wide receiver 1. You know what? To our credit, though, and to Christian's credit as well, we talked about what this Schottenheimer offense was going to look like. And we were worried about CeeDee Lamb going into this offense. And I think that's something with McCarthy calling plays. Even I think Jerry Jones today talked about how he was not concerned with CeeDee Lamb's production and they don't need to give him the ball more. What the hell is wrong with Jerry Jones? I am done with Jerry as a Dallas fan because that is ridiculous. Who are you getting the ball to? Yeah, you're going to throw Brandon Cooks and have 3 interceptions. So we just aren't seeing CeeDee Lamb be involved in this offense. And I think that's concerning. I think that is concerning there. And I am concerned. I think you should be a little bit panicked right now just because of this offensive system. I don't think for next year, I think there's going to be a new coaching staff. But for this year, yeah, I think there is a concern. Do you think so, Jeff?
I think he's been a victim of game scripts on a lot of it. I mean, week 1, they smoked the Giants. Then they had the Patriots game that Mac Jones was just handing away touchdowns to the defense. And then the 49ers game, they just could not get anything working there. So those are 3 game script games. And then he did light up the Jets and Sauce Gardner. So, I mean, that is, if you're going to have one good game, that is a good one to have a good game. I think he goes off this week, to be honest with you. They're playing against the Chargers. They're playing against Kellen Moore. I really think that this is one of those things where we've seen it the last couple of weeks where like maybe there was a little bit of a Jamar Chase window a couple weeks ago, or like maybe after week 2, there was a little bit of an AJ Brown window. I think right now we're in a little bit of the CeeDee Lamb window, and he has an island game Sunday night. I think it's Sunday night or Monday night, one of those 2 nights. Against the Chargers, against Kellen Moore, a team that I'm sure the Cowboys would love to hang 35-42 on Kellen Moore over in San Diego, and that defense over in San Diego is not going to do anything to stop them. And so I think that this is one of those things where it's crazy. You see crazy values on him because people are panicking, and you guys do make good points about that offensive system, but this is by the talent, and we've seen him produce, and I do think that this is a go-off week.
Neither one of us chimed in to let you know that you were saying San Diego instead of the Los Angeles.
I'm going to say San Diego and the Oakland Raiders.
We just want to show Jeff's right now. That's really what we're doing. Yeah. We just want to show Jeff's.
It will always be the San Diego Chargers and the Oakland Raiders for the forever.
Yeah, for sure.
What about Washington? Say Washington, chicken. Say Washington.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, don't.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So CeeDee, 24 years old. I think this offense, I think we might be on McCarthy's last legs here too. I think that would be a smart move after the season, just based on what we've seen out of this offense. And, he's calling plays and he's the one that's saying, oh, I need to do better. Yeah, you do. You do need to do better because it's not good. You say, I think CeeDee has a good game this week. I don't think this team is capable of hanging 35 on anyone right now. I think Dak's playing his worst football his worst healthy football. I think CeeDee kind of got clamped up too. I think that's part of this is CeeDee didn't really help his cause all that much because the corners were being physical with him, and he kind of just had to take that because he's not the type of guy that can really battle that physicality. So they have to get creative with getting him the ball, get him, more involvement in the slot, more involvement on jet sweeps, whatever it needs to be. I don't know that fully comes around this year, and I don't know that he fully realizes his draft capital from startups this year, but he's a buy low. He's very talented. I saw something on ESPN earlier this week that said, is CeeDee Lamb overrated? No, I don't think so. I think he's a good wide receiver. He might not be the elite tier of Jefferson or Chase, but I think he's right in the mix for that next tier. He took a big step last year. We just haven't seen that step stick this year.
Yeah. I think he's overrated. I think he's in a system that doesn't highlight him. And then that's the problem. I think that's where it's at. Let's go through some trades and then we'll get out of here. CeeDee Lamb for a first and a second. Again, not knowing where the first is at. If that's a top 5 first, I don't know. Maybe, but I still lean Lamb there. Jeff, where are you at?
I still lean Lamb, not knowing where that pick is going to end up. I still am on Lamb there.
Me too.
Is this next one of those deals that you did like in the offseason?
No, I don't know. So every week, and so listeners out there, every week I tweet out, tell me your most recent Dynasty trade. We love to use them for the show. Somebody replied that this was a deal that got done in their league, and I don't even know.
Congrats.
Okay, so here's the deal. Deebo Samuel for Lamb and a first. If that happened out there, could you CeeDee Lamb owner, congratulations. You just crushed it. Like if you can get CeeDee Lamb for Deebo Samuel and a first on that side, then I'll take that all day.
Yep.
Jeff's got some weird followers. All right, Breece I like this one a little bit more. Breece Hall for CeeDee Lamb and Zach Moss. Zach Moss is better than Jonathan Taylor, apparently. But when you're looking at this deal overall, I love Breece. I think this really comes down to, I hate to say that, but like how your team build. If you really need a running back and you're a contender, like I understand it if CeeDee's there, but I still lean the CeeDee sign. But that's probably because I'm a straight homer. Jeff, where are you at?
I mean, I love a wide receiver relative to a running back. And I mean, if Zach Moss is going to give you top 24 RB2 production in some sort of committee, like we saw Shane Steichen use a committee in Philadelphia. And so I'm not immediately writing off Zach Moss. And maybe that in 2 weeks, this will look like the dumbest thing I've ever said. But at the same time, if you're an immediate contender right now, I could lean the Breece side. Long term, I still am on the CeeDee side, I think.
I'd take Breece comfortably. I
must be in the bag for CeeDee Lamb relative to
okay.
Yeah,
me too. That's where I'm at.
I mean, just with what we saw this last week, like if Breece is healthy again,
Denver.
Sure, but like that's not the part that we were kind of waiting on. I don't think. I think that he's capable of doing that against everyone. And so if we have a top 2 to 3 ceiling out of a running back, and I can move off of the guy that I just said I don't think is going to realize his ceiling this year, and Zach Moss does not move the needle for me at all. I think he's irrelevant in 4 weeks. Personally, I get why you'd think he won't be because that performance shocked me. But yeah, I'll take Breece easily.
Irrelevant, sir. I won a game with no Superflex quarterbacks because of Zach Moss. So shout out Zach Moss. I appreciate you out there grinding there. So appreciate you guys tuning in on this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments what you think about the trades, kind of going with the news and stuff like that. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. And so guys, we're about to head over to the podcast form where we're going to talk about prospects. We're going to talk about dynasty trends. We're going to talk through the dynasty roundup that Jeff writes every week. So make sure you head over to the podcast forum. The full show can be found over there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. So if you're enjoying the show, make sure you head over there and subscribe to the show.